Welcome to Week in One, the show that catches you up on eNCA's top news stories and interviews from the past 7 days. I'm Melissa Dupré and I'll be taking you through this week's best picks. The Senzo Meyiwa trial is back in court. The Thabo Bester prison escape case has been postponed to the 11th of October for further investigations. And President Cyril Ramaphosa talks tough against gender-based violence during this week's Women's Day celebrations.
No police bail may be granted to persons charged with rape.
The Senzo Meyiwa murder trial continued this week. The slain soccer star's close friend Tumelo Madlala is expected to be cross-examined. He's pointed out accused number 2 as one of the men who entered the house on that fateful night. But the defence is pushing the argument that Meyiwa was not murdered in a botched robbery. eNCA reporter Maloko Moloto has been tracking proceedings.
Defense lawyer Zandile Mshololo read out the 2019 letter by the NPA to Tumelo Madlala.
Now, I cannot wait for that particular docket.
Okay, but you understand what is said there?
Yes.
In other words, it says the Director of Public Prosecution has not declined to prosecute yet, to prosecute you in particular yet, is still waiting.
Madlala dismissed as rubbish Kelly Kumalo's son's statement that there was a lot of blood on the floor after Meyiwa got shot. He also denies Mthokozi Zitwala, another friend of Meyiwa's, was part of the people who attacked one of the intruders.
So ngingajabula le statement masingaqoqwa sibeke eceleni umnikazi asazoyifundela yena lo doda ubhalela.
I would really be happy if the statement was to be folded and be put aside. Whoever finished this statement should come and explain this nonsense that's written here.
Yes.
Regarding his own statement he signed a day after Meyiwa's murder, Madlala denies ever stating that he had 3 gunshots, and he also denies ever saying he saw what is called a 3.8 special gun. He now says he only had 1 gunshot and that he knows nothing about guns.
Before you signed, did you tell the person who was taking the statement from you to say, I'm not going to sign here because you have included the information which I've never said?
Statement wamtshela lo muntu loyo bethatha istatement kuwena ukuthi angeke ngisayine la usufake neminye imininingwane engazange nganikeza yona.
Angikaze ngimtshela ukuthi ngeke ngisayine, but ngabatshela ngendaba yokubiza amagama ngoba imali into ye-revolver kukaningi ikhulunywa, ngabatshela ukuthi angaze ngilibizele igama, angazi ukuthi isibhamu esi-revolver into enjani.
No, I did not refuse signing. Safe to say that I actually told them that I hear that it is being spoken of in the statement about revolver and as well as the 38 special. These are the things that are unknown to me.
Also, you agreed to sign?
Yes, I agreed that I signed.
The state will call a new witness when the trial resumes on Friday. Moloko Molot, Pretoria.
Staying with the courts, the Thabo Bester prison escape case has been postponed to the 11th of October for further investigations. The convicted rapist and murderer sat next to his girlfriend, Nandipa Magudumana, in the dock. Senior reporter Silindelo Masikane was in court.
It was a brief appearance for 12 suspects accused of assisting Thabo Bester escape from prison. But for Bester and Dr. Nandipa Magudumana, it was more of a reunion. The pair arrived in matching outfits, held hands, and could be seen catching up in an intimate conversation. This is the first time they're seeing each other since their deportation from Tanzania. Bester also acknowledged the co-accused in the dock. During court proceedings, Bester and Magudumana's lawyers flagged some issues with the magistrate.
The instructions which I received from the 5th accused, just to place on record. Firstly, that he has been inhumanely treated at the Kosimampuru Correctional Center. That he spends almost 23 hours being cuffed and in his cell.
How long?
23 hours per day, being cuffed and in his cell.
Handcuffed.
Handcuffed.
every day?
On a daily basis.
The manner in which she was transported from Kronstadt prison to this court had all the ingredients of indignity, and it was very inhumane. She was handcuffed, Your Worship, and as she was being transported, she actually questioned the manner in which she was to be transported, as in other instances when she was transported to this court, she was not transported in the manner that she was today. Her protest fell on deaf ears.
Bester is also demanding to have items and cash worth millions returned to him.
Marriage ring, 350,000 rands. And these are watches, Your Worship, and APX2, 2.5 million. There were two of those, Your Worship. And FM, 2.5 million, two of those as well. A Rolex O, 2.6 million rands, two of those. Just written as C, valued at 1,750 rands. A PP, valued at 1.9 million rands. Cash which is missing, 295,000 rands, South African rands, Worship. 36,000 US dollars. 7,200,000 Tanzanian, I don't know if they are dollars or what, Worship. And there's Zambian money, 1.4 million. European pounds, 500,000. Swiss francs, 150,000, Worship. Worship, all these items that I'm mentioning, they were reported stolen by accused number 5 at the Lanseria police station.
The accused will be back in court on the 11th of October. Slinda Lomasigane, Bloemfontein in the Free State.
After the break, we feature some of the big interviews from our anchors. Stay with us. Welcome back to Week in One. I'm Melissa Dupré. The latest on the Senzo Meyiwa trial has the country wondering what's next. This as new witnesses continue to shed light on South Africa's longest-running murder trial. eNCA anchor Gareth Edwards spoke to legal analyst Elton Hart for his take on some of the recent developments in court.
The judge getting a lot of praise at the moment for how quickly he's keeping proceedings going as well. I also noticed this on Friday. We're starting to move away, or at least the argument from the defense was moving away into more of a position of trying to prove that there actually weren't any intruders on the house that night. The prosecution from a few weeks ago were trying to pin on the 5 accused who did what and when, making the assumption they were in the house. Now defense coming out and going, no, they don't believe actually there were any intruders at all. What did you make of that?
No, it's indeed, and I said from the beginning that they should more or less move in a direction to say that, and that's when I talked about the cell phone triangulation, to just bring somebody to say that our clients at the time of the incident, they were not in the vicinity. With cell phone triangulation, you can prove where a person more or less was. So then they can say, first, you cannot identify us. Secondly, we were not in the vicinity. So even if we had some sort of communication with each other or some communication with Kelly Kumalo for whatever it is, you cannot prove the content thereof. And then you create enough doubt in the court's mind to find us guilty. And it's only lately that I'm seeing now they moving in that direction to say, listen, yeah, this is now our strategy that we're going to, because I can also see that the state, I don't think that they have sufficient at this point in time. And the state's witnesses are contradicting each other on critical aspects as to what transpired at that house, and that creates that doubt. And for me, that is where the state will have problems in actually proving. Maybe even if they say that these people were in the house, you cannot prove who actually fired the shot, because it's already not clear from Zandile Kumalo, not clear from Mtokozisi Twala, and now it's now in between. Are they going to call Longwe Twala or Gledes Kumalo today? And I think it's now getting to a point where Longwatala is needed in this trial.
SAFTU General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi has made it clear, though, that they support Taxi Association Santaco. He had this conversation with eNCA anchor Masego Rahlacha.
Let's start off with you saying that you're supporting Santaco. With the Western Cape saying that Santaco wants its members to be exempt from the rules of the road. What's your response to that?
No, that's not the case at all. No, in fact, the opposite is true. The opposite is that the local authority, the city of Cape Town, wants to impose laws, practices on the minibus industry, the taxi, that are not being applied to the rest of other motorists in Cape Town or in the rest of South Africa. That's what is true. In fact, we're happy that the Minister of Transport today clarified that statement very clearly. The issue here is not that the taxi associations, the drivers, must not be bound by the legislation as you and me are bound. And no, that's not what we are saying. The laws of the country must apply to them equally as they apply to all of us. What we are opposed to is when they get targeted, is when the laws are selectively employed and implemented against them, is when the city suddenly impose new kinds of legislation that are not backed by the National Land and Transport Act.
Illegal and unregulated mining has far-reaching consequences for society. It's estimated that some 30,000 illegal miners work in and around thousands of disused and active mines across South Africa. Our news teams and shows conducted a special focus this week, looking at the impact that it's having on infrastructure as well as the environment.
Police are stationed in various areas in Riverlea, including in front of the Zamimpilo informal settlement, in efforts to flush out Zamazamas. Gauteng communities have long complained about the infrastructure damage caused by illegal mining. These Zamazamas, they don't care where they're digging. They're digging underneath our houses. Our ceilings are cracked. Our tiles in my lounge, you can see it's lifted up because of these Zamazamas.
The Zamazamas, or the illegal miners, in order to leach their gold, they often would use sewage pipes, which they would perforate in order to obtain water for the leaching process, or water pipes. And that, of course, also has an impact, because then we found that there is a significant ecological degradation and pollution as a result of sewage pollution or sewage spillages.
You see here, they've damaged our infrastructure. Rainwater infrastructure that supplies water to the entire area of Krugersdorp to do their own illegal operations. What is also happening is that the municipality also loses a lot of revenue because of this water, but also is built a lot by rainwater because of this overflowing water.
This is a major risk to the infrastructure of Mogale City and the water supply line, supplying all reservoirs to Mogale City.
Around 5 holes that the illegal miners use here to go underground have been temporarily closed off with rubble. Aviwem Mtila, Johannesburg.
How big is the impact on our environment of illegal mining activities?
Oh, it's incredible. It's because illegal mining by its very nature is unaccounted for. So the mining that's being undertaken is not in accordance with the legislative framework that would protect the environment and that would protect people ultimately. And so the consequences is that you have unregulated mining operations being taken place and very little adherence to the legal framework which protects people and the environment.
Coming up, President Cyril Ramaphosa talks tough on GBV. Stay with us. Welcome back to Week in One. I'm Melissa Dupré. It's still unclear what led to the death of a pupil from Queen's High School in Johannesburg. A criminal investigation is underway into the death of Brian Ndlovu. His family alleges he was forced to drink poison at school. eNCA senior reporter Silundelo Masikane has more.
We're at Queen's High School, where a media briefing has just concluded around the allegations of bullying and, of course, the death of a grade 9 pupil, Brian Ndlovu. But to just give us more context in terms of the investigations, I am joined by the MEC for Education here in Gauteng. Thank you so much for your time. So just give us a sense as to the key outcomes of the preliminary investigation.
The key outcomes, I could say, is that the bullies that were alleged have been investigated, and as far now the school was on top of it. That issue of a scuffle that happened between the two learners. And overall, secondly, is that the school is highly secure in terms of cameras. There are 96 video cameras. The footages have been sent to the police for investigation as to form part of the investigation. And thirdly, we're waiting for the postmortem to guide and see what would have really transpired to the learner. It's really sad that we've lost a learner, indeed. Yeah. However, what we can say now is that we wish the parents heartfelt condolences and the school itself, the schooling community.
Yeah. So maybe then talk to me about some of the programs in place by the department to tackle this issue around bullying.
I've said that schools must give me the bullies. I want all the bullies so that we can take them for rehabilitation. We don't want to lose learners because we know that once you go in the path of a bully, those learners end up not even concluding their schooling period. They end up dropping out. So to avoid dropout and to avoid potential dropout from those that they abuse as well. And some learners even go to the extreme. Some incidences, obviously, upon investigating proof, the suspicion that they could even be led to other learners taking their lives because of bullying. And cyberbullying is also a big component that we are really struggling with in schools. So we are taking those learners, we'll be putting them through a rehabilitative process. Amongst that, we need to remove them from the system. Not to say they will not be studying where we'll be putting them, but to ensure that we get them right, then bring them back to join other learners, because we really need to get our system right. So this is what we are doing. We have that program running already that we'll be investing in it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, that is the MEC for Education in Gauteng, just giving us some context around the investigations. And of course, we await the criminal investigation by the police to be concluded. Slindalo Masigane, Johannesburg.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says new laws have been passed to fight gender-based violence and femicide. But anti-GBV NGOs say they will hold Ramaphosa to account if he fails to implement his promises. He was speaking at official Women's Day commemorations at the Union Buildings in Pretoria. Our reporter, Pule Litswiti-Jones, has more.
In an attempt to take the fight to gender-based violence and femicide, President Cyril Ramaphosa has promised a host of new laws aimed at punishing perpetrators. Some of the laws include no bail for rapists and life imprisonment for those found guilty of gang rape.
Effective from this month, no police bail may be granted to persons charged with rape or if the victim was in a domestic relationship with the perpetrator, even if it was in a domestic relationship. Such bail applications must be formally applied for in court if the accused was in a domestic relationship with the alleged victim. The court has to issue a protection order against them.
His cabinet has agreed that more must be done to support victims.
It's not enough to react. We must be proactive and prevent. That's why, for instance, we were talking about that in every ward there must be a team that consists of different sectors: women, youth, religious people, business people, traditional leaders if it's a traditional area, everyone working together and saying, in this ward, we don't want GBV. Because if we can do that and say, in this ward, there'll be no GBV. You can't live in this ward if you abuse, you rape, you kill. Then we will start to see a change.
Anti-GBV NGOs say they'll be keeping a close eye to ensure government keeps its word.
I think also what came out for me is also the fact that the president said that there'll be a life sentence for people who are serial gang rapists, incest, and other rapists who commit serious crimes like domestic violence. So we are very happy about that. But one thing that fell short for us was the issue around economic freedom for women. I think the president just regurgitated some things that he had previously spoke about, and we are saying that we will hold him and his cabinet to account in future regarding these issues that he has promised us today.
For now, the women of South Africa can only hope that government will keep its promises to keep them safe from GBV perpetrators for days like Women's Day to have even more significance. Ule Litwiti Jones, Union Buildings in Tshwane.
Banyana Banyana and the broader women's football movement will be looking to see what comes out of their showing at the FIFA Women's World Cup. Players have had multiple assurances over the years that women's football would be professionalized, but this has yet to happen. eNCA's Slonim Tumkulu has a story.
By reaching the last 16, Banyana Banyana fulfilled the mandate expected of them by SAFA. They also defied the odds, beating out the better-ranked duo of Italy and Argentina to the knockouts. The team has still faced challenges, with most players in Desiree Ellis's World Cup squad plying their trade in the semi-professional Hollywood Bet Super League. While the amateur structure continues its development, it's a far cry from the general football experience of the country's premier players, where PSL players are able to make a living from football. The SA Football Players Union wants a policy to be outlined that treats all players the same.
Look, I think women must be treated equally like any other people. First and foremost, you don't treat them first as footballers, women footballers. You must treat them as human beings, as South Africans, as citizens of the world. And when you do that and you achieve that, you will then be able to give them the respect that they do. But we also expect government to lead in this instance, so that the policy is very clear in terms of what needs to happen. What happened to Banyana Banyana is a lesson for all of us, because had this been Bafana, I can tell you that things would have been much different.
SAFA, often at the center of cries for better payment and structures for Banyana Banyana, will need to raise their game for things to get better.
We have a dream, but the funding also is really important. If you can remember as well, 2019 we started the National Women's League with hardly anything. We didn't even have a sponsor, but a sponsor eventually came on board. But I think once we have a strategy that we will be working on, we'll be launching our women's football strategy in the next coming months.
SAFA CEO Lydia Munyapao says they hope to have a professional league for women in the next 4 years. Shonim Timkulu, Kempton Park.
And that's it for this edition of Week in One. From myself and the team, have a great weekend.